Gentlemen, we are back. Everybody, good to see you. Do you guys like this lighting behind me, or do you like the bluer lighting? I need to know. And then I just hit my... Golly, I keep doing that, man. I keep doing that. Should be fine. All right. All right, so Zach says, what's up? I missed the live stream last night. It was a good live stream, not what Dusty said. It did get a little bit strange, but it's fine. Barks, it just about went off the rails. Yeah. Buck, final Golden Spikes list out, both Lodi's and Burris amongst others. Yeah, but with how Lodi's has finished right now, he has not looked great. Burris, on the other hand, is surging, so I think Burris has a legitimate chance of winning that. Lodi's, unless he really kind of turns it around here in the ACC tournament, it's going to be a little bit more tough. The stream last night was bonkers. Zach, stream last night was brutal. Didn't miss much. Just stop, Dust. Zach, dude, the people at D1 Baseball hate Georgia Tech. Yeah, it's starting to see. I mean, if you watch the Nerdcast from yesterday, Zach, it was like when they brought up Georgia Tech, it was like we have to give them a host. Like, we have to give them a host. It was brutal. They said Georgia Tech has to do work in the ACC tournament to secure a host. They also said Georgia Tech conference strength of schedule is 14 out of 16. Okay. I made this argument last night. It's like, okay, yeah, Georgia Tech swept Stanford. Stanford beat UNC. Stanford beat NC State. So we can do the strength of schedules. I mean, let's talk about Oregon State if we're going to talk about strength of schedule. I mean, that's the part of me is trying to figure out, like, because when they talked about Oregon State, it was like they were justifying everything. It's like, well, they played a lot of games on the road. And I'm like, I don't care if you play Cal State Northridge on the road. Like that. If that's the case, then just... All right. Bryce is blocked now. For that. But the crazy thing is, like, with Oregon State, they were just like, yeah, they played a pretty good schedule, and you're like, what? But then with Georgia Tech, it's like, well, their conference schedule wasn't great. Again, it does seem that way. Anyone else notice Kyle dressing better of late, classing the joint up or lipstick on the pig? Discuss. Yeah, a little bit more professional. Kyle, the data has spoken. It's pretty loud. I have spent some time on the data this AM. All right, well, let us know what the data says, Dusty. D1 Baseball guys said they shouldn't get a host by default. The D1 Baseball guys really hate Georgia Tech. Yeah, it's really weird. And like, I'm pretty objective when it comes to this stuff. Like, it's not like I understand the arguments that they're making, right? Like, I get that. My problem is when you talk about UCLA, when you talk about Oregon State, when you talk about TCU, the same thing doesn't come up. And it's because D1 Baseball knows they, like, at the end, the committee wants regional hosts all across the country. Like, we're just going to do this just so you guys can see this. Because I want you to understand what we're dealing with here. Because, again, Oregon State is almost gaming the RPI system by playing a lot of neutral site games and playing a lot of games on the road. They do not have a difficult schedule by any stretch of the imagination, but they game the RPI system. It was also convenient how they paired Oregon State Regional up with Oregon Regional, so Oregon State wouldn't have to travel to the East Coast. Yes. Again, crazy. So, all right, I'm just going to pull this up for you guys. We'll see what Dusty says here. 100% of the time, without fail, if you win the ACC since 2015, and I was still going back, just ran out of time, you are a natty host. Furthermore, if you won either conference, you are a natty host. Or either division, you mean. 10 years of precedent. And now there's only one division, even harder to win outright. Yes. 100%. 100%. So let's look at Oregon State's schedule. Oregon State is, there's no question mark in their mind that Oregon State is a really a potential national seed, right? Like they're like right on the bubble of national seed. All right, so Xavier, UNLV, Indiana, Xavier, Houston got canceled. They beat Virginia at the beginning, right? When Virginia was playing really bad. Oklahoma beats them 8-4. Minnesota beats them 10-4. Then they play Baylor. They win 4-3. They lose to Auburn. They beat Ohio State, who was really bad this year. Then they play San Diego. Okay, they beat San Diego. They beat Washington State, Grand Canyon, Santa Clara, Grand Canyon, Rutgers, Cal Poly, lose to Cal Poly, beat Cal Poly, but look at how close these games are, right? They beat Washington, they lose to Nebraska, they beat Nebraska, they lose to Nebraska. UC Irvine, they lose 12-0, then they win 4-2 and 7-4. Portland, Cal State Fullerton, they beat Cal State Fullerton, who was solid this year. But again, this isn't an ACC opponent. This isn't an SEC opponent. They beat UCLA in a one game. All right, that's a solid win. Cal State Northridge on the road. Hey, they played a lot of games on the road. It's a tough schedule at Cal State Northridge on the road. Barely beating Cal State Northridge, 13-8, 16-11, 15-12. That looks like a national seed or a host, right? That's what that looks like. Gonzaga beat them in 12 innings. Beat them 8-3. Oh, and then Oregon comes to town and look, lose 4-2, lose 13-1, lose 3-2, lose 8-4. And that was on the road though, so it's it's on the road. Then they play Hawaii in Hawaii. Oh, it's a road series. They beat Hawaii 3 out of 4. Portland's canceled. They beat Iowa. And then they tied Iowa 6-6. But these are all close games. Portland. And then they play Long Beach State at the end. And it's 2-1, 12-8. And then they 13-0 them. Is that the schedule? Like this is my point. My point in bringing that up, guys, is we're talking about Georgia Tech's conference strength of schedule, and you just saw the games that Oregon State played the whole year. You just saw the games that Oregon State played all year. That is one of the weakest schedules I've seen. It's probably the weakest schedule for a projected host and possible national seed. I'm not sure about Southern. I'm not sure Southern Miss or UCLA should be hosts. I think Southern Miss should be a host over UCLA or TCU. Yeah. Oregon's non-conference was legit. What up, Coach Lil Willie? What's up, Coleman? Zach, the Sun Belt regular season champ shouldn't be seeded ahead of the ACC regular season champion. Yeah, I mean, that was the other thing. It's like they seeded Southern Miss ahead. So it's just weird with D1 baseball. It's like they really care about RPI when it comes to like Oregon State. Even though Oregon State has gamed the RPI system. But when it comes to Southern Miss, whose RPI is much higher, they're like, okay, well, we're going to put them above Georgia Tech. It's weird, really weird. This is Oregon State. Dusty, this is Oregon State. Not Oregon. Their non-conference wasn't legit. Their whole season is non-conference. What do you mean? Oregon, we'll look at Oregon's schedule, though. Let's look at Oregon's schedule. No, I said it for sure, Zach. I think if Georgia Tech doesn't win a game in the ACC tournament, they're going to be sweating Monday when it comes to selection. All right. Let's look at Oregon. Oh, Oregon State. My bad. Okay, carry on. Yeah. Last night, yeah, Juan Soto's pissing you off, White House. Last night he took a half swing, ground ball to second base, yank, second baseman slide, stumble, still throws out. Yeah, I saw a video of him like not hustling at all, but no surprise. No surprise. That's allowed in the big leagues now. All right, so Oregon. Let's contrast this with Oregon State. They played Toledo. They beat them. Rhode Island beat them. Columbia beat them. Pretty weak so far, right? Utah Tech, USC beat them. USC's solid team. They sweep USC. Right, so already you just look at one series compared to Oregon State's schedule. Like, Oregon's schedule is already better. I saw a series against USC. Okay, and they swept. Series against, or played Grand Canyon twice. Minnesota, they go 2 out of 3. Rutgers, 2 out of 3. Ohio State, they lose to Ohio State. That was a bad weekend loss. Lose to Portland. Then they go to Michigan, beat Michigan 2 out of 3. Maryland, beat them 2 out of 3. Beat Georgetown. UCLA, beat UCLA 2 out of 3. Portland. Then they go to Oregon State, who was number 3 in the country at the time. Xavier and Indiana are comparable to USC. Dude, neither Xavier or USC have been close to the top 25 this year. USC has been in the top 25 this year. USC definitely better. But they go to number 3 at the time, Oregon State. Remember when I told you guys that they were way overrated, and they beat them 4 straight games. Then they beat Michigan State, beat St. Mary's. They sweep Washington. They sweep Iowa. Like, this is just a way, way more competitive schedule than Oregon State, and they're basically seated the exact same. Early afternoon chat. Yeah, we do these during the week. I agree with Dusty Isaacs. Sure you do. They are all considered last 5 in. Why are you being dumb today? I'm not being dumb. I'm just giving my opinion. I don't care what do in baseball who they say should be the last 4 in. Do I think Virginia should be one of the last 4 or 5 in? No. And here's a great tweet that we'll bring up that is really good about this from Colin Lacey. Let me pull this over here so I can stream it or share it. So Colin Lacey, who does a lot of the radio stuff for Georgia Tech baseball, and we'll zoom in here. He says, with Georgia Tech baseball jumping from unranked to 16 in the D1 baseball poll, it ties the highest jump for an unranked team into the polls this year, and only the third time it's happened this year, twice by an ACC team. And the thing is this: the ACC is highly underrated when this has happened twice in the year for the ACC. When 2 ACC teams have gone from unranked to 16th, then you know something's going on. You know something's going on. Warren Nolan has Oregon. Let me pull this back over here real quick. Warren Nolan has Oregon strength of schedule 33 and Oregon State 39. Laugh out loud. It's essentially the same thing. No, it's not. It's not. And I'll tell you why. Let me just get my Warren Nolan stuff out here. Where's my Warren Nolan? Let's get my Warren Nolan. All right. Strength of schedule. Looks like a little bit of cakewalk for Oregon. Kyle's one of the moods where he won't listen to Reason streams. Is a waste of time today, fellas. No, I'm trying to explain to you that strength of schedule is like, again, it's one of those metrics that it's solid, but it can be misleading. It can be misleading. And their strength of schedule, again, is going to be like the thing with Oregon State is their RPI is only as high as it is because they played a lot of games on the road and at neutral sites. But if you look at a lot of their road games, you're like, that's not an impact. That doesn't have an impact on the team. They're not playing a road game at Clemson or Arkansas or Florida State or Tennessee or whatever. They're playing a road game at like Cal State Northridge. Why is my Warren Nolan not working right now? No, and this is why I'm trying to tell you guys. Okay. Oregon State is 6th in RPI. The teams ahead of them are Georgia, Auburn, Vanderbilt, Texas, and Arkansas. The teams below them are North Carolina, LSU, Alabama, Clemson. You look at all 9 of those other teams' schedules, and you look at Oregon State's schedule, you will be like, how in the hell is Oregon State 6th in RPI? And again, they gamed the RPI system by scheduling a lot of games on the road, which is smart. I don't know if they did that on purpose. But I can't seem to figure out why their RPI is so high besides that. Do you know how RPI works? I think you're looking at it from the wrong perspective. Yes. They get more credit. Their RPI number is boosted because they play a lot of games on the road. And they win on the road, which is fine. But we just looked at their schedule. It doesn't make sense how their RPI is that high. Hi, Kyle. Big fan of the show. Big pole jump from Georgia Tech. What's the highest you've ever jumped a pole? I never did pole vault, so you're going to have to figure that out. Oregon State road games, while not great, are still not as heavily weighted as LSU playing Purdue, Fort Wayne, and Southern, etc. Buck, I'm not sure Oregon State was gaming the system with the sudden collapse of the Pac-12. I'm not sure they had much choice and likely could only get series if they traveled. No, I think you're right, but why? It's weird. Why didn't Oregon State join a conference? LSU is punished for winning against Southern, Nichols, Purdue, Fort Wayne, etc. Yes, they are. They are. And I get what you mean, Dusty. Like, a lot of SEC teams know their RPI will be taken care of by their conference schedule. So they kind of play easier series early on. That can hurt them in some of the midweeks and stuff. But still, Like, you can't tell me that Oregon State's RPI of 6 is anything comparable to like the other teams I mentioned. And my whole point in bringing up this argument is simply this. For Georgia Tech, for some reason, it's like, well, their conference strength of schedule wasn't that great, which, okay. But they still had a tougher schedule than Oregon State. They just didn't play as many games on the road against like okay teams. The SEC tournament is set up for Florida to run to the semis. That's the other thing. Like, what Georgia Tech has to be worried about. What Georgia Tech has to be worried about is like a Florida or a Tennessee, or Tennessee, Florida, Alabama, Ole Miss. Any of those 4 teams making, like 2 of them making runs to the championship. And then the committee going, well, we're going to give the host to the 2 SEC teams. And all of a sudden, does Georgia Tech still get a host? That's what I am saying, dude. I disagree with you. It's not so much what Oregon State is doing as it is what the SEC teams are doing, albeit winning. Road wins for Oregon State weighs way more than LSU versus, yeah. Oh, I get it. I'm just saying I don't understand why when D1 baseball was talking about Oregon State versus Georgia Tech, with Oregon State, it was like, well, they played a lot of games on the road, and they had, it's pretty tough schedule. And in my mind, of all the hosts, they probably had the easiest schedule of all the projected hosts, without a doubt. Coastal had a tougher schedule. Southern Miss had a tougher schedule, and I don't care what the strength of schedule says. The Sun Belt is a one of the most difficult conferences in college baseball. Georgia Tech had a tougher schedule. So for some reason, it's just like, well, Georgia Tech's ACC schedule was one of the easier ones in conference, and it's like, okay, but they, like, again, they, like, what happens a lot is, like, you'll hear D1 baseball have a conversation, and they'll say things like, well, you can't penalize a team for taking care of business against a weaker team in their conference or whatever. But in this scenario, they are penalizing a team for like taking care of business against one of the softer ACC schedules. But well, I can tell you, Florida's AD is on the committee still, from what I can tell. How and when can we find out who is on the committee this year? Someone here can probably tell you. And I'm just saying this, man. Watch out for what happens in the SEC tournament. Because if D1 baseball is right, and I do think Dusty's tweet earlier was right, I think what happened is, D1 was not very high on Georgia Tech after the 7-game skid. They really were not high on Georgia Tech for the whole year. And then they had to boost them to 16th because, like, how do you project a team as a host and they're not even like in the top 20? So Georgia Tech finished the year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, winning 11 of their last 13 games. And for some reason, yeah, D1 baseball was just not a believer, and I think Dusty's right. It looked kind of bad that the team that won the ACC regular season title wasn't even ranked. Really hard to believe the ACC has one national host. Tells you all you need to know about what people think of the ACC. Ah, my bad there too. Yeah, I think it's Florida State and UNC, but I don't know, man. There may only be one national seed, which is crazy. That's exactly right, Wiley Ballard. Oregon State got outscored in 3 games versus UCI and got swept by Oregon. Their only 2 ranked series this year. And like, that's my whole point is like, if you look at Oregon State's season, if you look at pure run differential, their run differential is not that high. Yeah, there's only one, Dusty. I think FSU was like 9 or 10. Where is my D1 baseball tab? I have a feeling the committee will think Georgia Tech is much better than those nerds at D1. Maybe, dude. I don't know. And I'm not like dunking on D1. I think D1 does a really. I mean, they're really the only serious people that cover college baseball. So like, thank God we have people doing that. I just think this year they have a blind spot when it comes to evaluating the talent of the ACC. That's what I think. Yeah, so right now, let's see. North Carolina's a national seed. So, and yeah, North Carolina is the only national seed. Oregon is the only non-ACC or SEC national seed. Yeah. The other side of the coin is that Georgia Tech might be considered fully safe. They essentially have 2 additional wins due to the buys in ACC tournament. Yeah. That was my point too, Dusty. Is like when you have the double bye, you almost can't you cannot penalize a team for losing your first game in the ACC tournament because of a double bye. Because you, like you said, you are playing at that point. You're playing one of the better teams in the conference already, and it's just one game. And I think Georgia Tech is safe unless that scenario I mentioned before, like Tennessee makes a run to win the championship, or Ole Miss, or Alabama, like those 3 SEC teams that are kind of on the bubble for hosting. And I think if one of those 3 teams does, you could see issue. I mean, if NC State, let's say Georgia Tech loses game 1 And NC State makes a run and wins the NC or ACC championship. What happens then? Oregon State's Pythagorean win total is 37 versus their 41 real wins. I don't even know what a Pythagorean win total is, Wiley Ballard, but if maybe you can explain it for us. Have you heard any updates on the Mississippi State coaching situation? None right now. Just like I said, what I was told is that Rob Vaughn was the favorite, but I don't know. Nothing new on that. Dusty, you go from playing Pitt to like Wake. Yeah, it's interesting because where's my X? All right, here we go. Kyle, would you rather have Tennessee as a 2 in Atlanta or go to Tuscaloosa as a 2? That's a tough question. I mean, I think like Tennessee's going to travel, so like there's going to be a lot of Tennessee fans in Atlanta. I do think, like, I'll say it like this: playing Alabama, I would rather play Alabama than play Tennessee. Now, would you rather be a host versus a 2 seed? I think there is something to playing at your home field, especially from a hitting perspective. You're just more comfortable there, everything like that. So I think you take the 1 seed. But I think if you're Georgia Tech, you would rather see Alabama than Tennessee. But I think if you had to go on the road versus home, you take the home versus Tennessee. How soon after the season will James Ramsey get announced? Well, I mean, we don't know if that's a for sure thing. We think it's pretty likely. I would assume it's like right after the season's over, But we who knows, dude? I mean, we really do not know what's going on. Pythagorean takes runs scored and runs allowed to calculate expected wins. OSU run differential would indicate a team that should have won less games. Yeah, that makes sense. It's like I was saying, Wiley. I mean, just from looking at their wins and losses and how close they were, that makes sense. Now, I would like you to do that for Georgia Tech, Wiley. Dusty heard some tea on that. Dusty, once you bring it up in chat, you better spill the tea. I know what he's going to say next, though. Pfeiffer, Oregon State is independent, knowing the Mountain West was one team auto bid and their RPI would suffer to host. Plus, they had to save players from jumping in the portal. I understand that, but why didn't they just join like the Big Ten or the Big 12? Is it for travel reasons? Are they just going to stay as independent forever? That's the question, is like, what's going on? What's going to go on? Like, what's Oregon State's future look like? The Big Ten didn't offer Oregon State, would water down the football revenue too much. Okay. Yeah, football-driven conference. That makes sense. But, I mean, the question is, does Oregon State – I think Oregon State you could see Oregon State, especially that now there's Cal and Stanford in the ACC, maybe Oregon State – maybe you get Oregon State and one more team from the West Coast to join the ACC. But, I mean, is Oregon State just going to stay independent? Financially, Washington State and Beavs kept all the Pac-12 money, so all the other sports are in the Mountain West. It was. We'll see. We'll let Craig fill us in. Wiley Ballard and Joyer, can you run your Pythagorean theorem on your TI 28 calculator and let us know what Georgia Tech's wins would be according to their Pythagorean? Same with Washington State. Hey, Zach, you should know by now, Dusty will not spill the tea. Exactly, Buck. Just like have like there be a West Coast side of the ACC. Financially, okay, Craig. Yeah, you said GT Pythagorean win total is 41, so they're 2 wins better than their record. That's what I would think because Georgia Tech has scored so many runs. That's crazy. The Pac-12 is starting back up in like 2 years, I think. Okay, so they may just be waiting around. Dusty says, sounds like it's going to a true nationwide search. Wow, that's interesting. Washington State and Beavs kept all the Pac-12 money and the Pac-12 in. Zach says, wow. That's explosive tea there, Dust. That's ACC Network analyst tea right there. Fake news, please ban Dusty. But my money and hope is still on JR. Yeah, I mean, listen, I think this is what people have to understand is that even if it is like a nationwide search and they do say that, I think James is still like the front runner candidate. Like someone's going to have to really, really impress them to overtake him. But you can understand from a Jay Batt's perspective as AD, he probably wants to make it look like, this is a serious search and we're not just going to, you guys know what I mean. He doesn't want it to look like we're just going to go with, an assistant hire, which is not what it would be. But I think it at least give the optics that they're really looking for a special candidate or something. Let's not overthink it, Dusty says. Aaron Steely, how do you feel about UTSA? They've had a great year, man. I mean, they're going to be in a tough regional. You can, say that. Like right now, D1 has them projected at TCU. Actually, I thought I remembered it being Texas. If they're at TCU with Oklahoma in there and Oral Roberts, I think UTSA, that's a regional. I would say you're on upset alert. To be honest. So I think UTSA, if that's where they end up, they're feeling pretty good about that regional. J-Bat is still going to do his due diligence. It would be irresponsible not to. 100%. 100%. He's come from big time programs, so he knows that, you even if you think 90% chance we're hiring James Ramsey, you still want to give the optics that we're having a real search, we're interviewing 4 or 5 candidates or whatever it is, so that if things in 2 or 3 years do not look good, he can say, well, people won't comment, well, we didn't even interview anybody and we did, because you're just, again, you're covering all your bases. Pac-12 is back next year, but baseball teams suck. So is Oregon State not going to join the Pac-12? Is North Carolina still your pick to win the Natty? Yes. 954. Does new coach bring portal departures? They certainly can. I think if you're asking wherever the new coach came from, if there's guys in the portal from there, can he bring Can he recruit them at his new school? Yes. 954. Yeah, he can. He doesn't have to, but he can. How far do you think Yale will get in the tournament? Yeah, Yale won't make the tournament. Yeah, they lost in the Ivy League semis. Columbia is in. Who is a better team? Yeah, Yale. The intrigue about Yale was that their Friday night guy is like a legit SEC Friday night guy. He's 94, 97, really good numbers, throw strikes. Like it was just going to be interesting to see if Yale could pull off like a 4-seed upset over a 1-seed in game 1. Yeah, it does suck, Zach, that we're not going to see him because he was. I mean, I was thinking, man, that's going to be really fun. But Burke, I'm sure you can. Well, maybe you can. If you go to their website and just type in like search like Field of 64 and look at the articles going back in time, I'm sure you can find they have most of their articles archived, so you should be able to find it. Yeah, 1 seeds everywhere, thrilled Yale is out. Yeah. That was literally I don't think anyone expected Yale to like win the regional, but you thought they got a chance on opening night against the 1 seed, and every 1 seed 100% was like, please do not. I meant kids leaving from Georgia Tech with new coach. Yeah, he can re-recruit them. I mean, if like let's say it like this 954, like let's say a brand new head coach is hired at Georgia Tech and a bunch of the guys go into portal from Georgia Tech. They can still like recommit to Georgia Tech, if that makes sense. Maybe that answers your question. Just keep at if that doesn't answer your question, just let me know. But see, if I'm looking at the ACC, 954 is just asking if you think a lot of kids will bounce if Ramsey isn't hired. Thank you, Dusty, for that. From what I have heard, yes. I think Burris leaves. And if Burris leaves, I mean, if Ramsey isn't hired, I think you have to understand there's going to be some serious growing pains. Now, again, I think he's like you could say this is comparable. Well, not really, but it's kind of comparable to A&M last year with Georgia Tech will have an entire lineup returning except for their shortstop, Kyle Lodiz, next year. So their offense is going to be already this year. It's one of the best in the country. Next year, it may be the preseason best offense in the country next year if all those players are returning. And I think if Ramsey is the head coach, like all of them will stay. If Ramsey leaves, you're gonna have a lot of those guys leave, and it wouldn't be surprising if wherever Ramsey ends up, they end up there. Let's speculate on his landing spot. He's from Florida, right? Burris is from Georgia. Burris is from he went to Houston County, I believe. Or maybe I think Houston. He went to Houston. Whole lineup would follow Ramsey if they are good enough to play where he goes. Yeah, for sure. That doesn't mean everybody would leave, but I from what I have heard from around the program, like it's pretty crystal clear that like Burris is gone if Ramsey's gone, and he's probably going to wherever Ramsey ends up. No, and I don't know. I mean, now if Ramsey ends up being a head coach at a mid-major, like a really good one, does he still go there? I don't know. But I think like if let's just say if Ramsey left somewhere and he's like all of a sudden gotten an SEC assistant job, like Burris is going there. Thank you, Dusty. Yep. Thank you, Dusty. 9-5. My bad, man. I was trying to figure out what you were asking. Wiley Ballard, Buck B moving up the list. We have the easy answer and a perfect plan if the key characters will allow for it. Zach, how wild do you think this offseason will be? Wonder how many big-time players went through the portal. He will, or sorry, this will be, I think year by year, you're just going to see the portal get bigger and bigger. As more money flows into programs' hands to give out, you're just going to see more and more of it. Ramsey is the head coach and hire him for 60% of the list rate. Hire Strickland as associate head coach at a 40% increase on market value. Kyle, if I send a $5 super chat, can you DM me one of your sources? Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Lean on Strickland to learn the ropes. Dusty is right as usual. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a solid plan. I think that is one of the attractive things with hiring a first-time head coach is you're not paying like sticker price for the car, or at least for the position. You're usually getting a discount on what would typically be the salary of a head coach at Georgia Tech, especially if it's an experienced one. So I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, only time will tell, but we're getting close, right? We're getting close to figuring it out. Wiley, Ballard, and Joyer is someone who was pretty connected to the program for about 4 years. At least if it is who I believe it is. But Strick is going to cost you from an assistant perspective, but worth it. Yeah. Well, the other interesting thing is this: like, is Strick going to get? Like, one thing you got to remember is that Strick was he was like a new addition to the staff this year, and what they've done. The question is, does Strick want to get back in the game, like at in some level, or does he want to stay at Georgia Tech? And is Ramsey thinking that? It's interesting. Soma, no way, it's Soma. But yeah, so I mean, so do you think that? I mean, the question is like, again, I think if what you said is true, Dusty, and like Strick gets a pretty big pay raise, yeah, it's going to be hard he's going to want to just stay, right? He'll be in a good spot. But again, it's just a question of if Ramsey gets the job, who all is staying on staff? Oh, Wes is back in the chat now. Oh, geez. We got to end it now. Wes is back in the chat. Chicks dig the long ball, so take roids. Cal playing at 6 a.m. their time tomorrow is wild. Yeah. Dude. Like that's the biggest disadvantage for those teams. Like, going east is brutal. I think Cal got to Durham yesterday. If you were Cal's coach, how would you prepare to play a game at 6 a.m. at 6 a.m. West Coast time? Well, number one, yeah, I mean, I think you get to the East Coast as fast as possible, and again, it's easier if you got a buy or a couple buys because then you really could get like 4 days of acclimation time. I think that's really the only way to do it is like try to acclimate as fast as possible, but you try to reset you try to reset your sleep clock. So maybe a week ago you're like, hey, like start going to sleep earlier and wake up at like 5:30 or 4, right? You have to reset your clock, and it's not easy to do. Again, I've done that in my career, traveled from West Coast to East Coast, after being kind of accustomed to, like, for example, when I was with the Reds, I'm in Arizona all year, all spring, and then I go to Louisville AAA, and even that is just a central time. But even that was like that took like a week to really get adjusted. Alvarado thought the chicks would come before the MLB drug test people. California baseball players are soft. Maybe. That's your opinion, I think. Cal will be a quick, sleepy out with like 3 hits tomorrow morning. Yeah, I mean, and I told you guys that at the beginning of the year, did I not? I told you guys, man, like, I don't know. I think Stanford and Cal are really going to get killed by this travel. Like, this travel is not, like, that's AAA back before they mandated all these off days travel. Like, my first year in AAA, when I tell you travel was terrible. We would wake up, you had like 2 or 3 off days a month. That's it. You played every day besides that. And you had, we had to fly out of Denver, and we were in Colorado Springs. So we had to get up. We had to get to the field because you're mandated by the league to take the earliest flight out. We'd play a game, get done, get home in bed at 11:30 after packing everything and stuff for the trip tomorrow. And they were like, all right, be at the field, be to the bus. The bus leaves at 3. So you're talking, you got like maybe 3 or 2.5 hours of sleep. And then you're on a bus for an hour and a half to Denver. And then you're flying to a 2 or 3 hour flight somewhere to play. And you're just hoping that day, you're like, I just hope I get a hit or a walk. Like, that's really it. Imagine using traveling as an excuse as to why you lost. It's not an excuse. I mean, it's a biological reality that traveling east is much harder to adjust to than traveling west. So the teams that traveled west to Stanford and Cal, it's not a major adjustment because they're actually getting more sleep. You're getting more sleep than you're accustomed to. You travel east, like you're getting less sleep. You have to wake up earlier than you're accustomed to. So it doesn't, and you're right, Wes, in a sense like that, that's something. It's not everything, but it is an impact on how you play. Burke, selling almost weekly coast to coast travel to high school recruit has to be tough for coach. Yeah, it's got to be. It's got to be. It's got to be difficult because and I think some kids at the high school level think, oh, that's sick. Like, we're flying everywhere. It's like we're in the big leagues, and they don't understand it's not. Like, it's not like the big leagues. Like, you're, in the big leagues, you're flying out on a private plane, couple private planes or whatever, and you've got a nice meal on the plane, and you can hang out, relax, and there's a lot of empty rows, and, you can hang out, play games and everything. It's not like that in college. But I think some players will think, oh, that's pretty cool. But I can tell you from anyone who played at the AAA level in the Pacific Coast League, which is like the worst travel in minor league baseball, you all of us at the AAA level like wished we were back in the bus leagues, because the bus leagues, it was a little bit easier. You're flying out, you're busing after your game, and you're exhausted after your game. So like at some point you're going to fall asleep on the bus. But when you're flying, you got to wake up early in the morning to fly out, and that's brutal. Kendall Rogers. I know most minor league series are 6 to 7 games now. They are? They're 6 to 7 game series? Nah, dude. When I played, no. You played 3-game series. Every once in a while, you played a 4-game series. No Golden Spikes talk? Oh, we'll talk Golden Spikes. But no, it's when I was in the minor leagues, and I think in the Southern League in AA, you played 5-game series, but the travel in the Southern League wasn't bad. I mean, you're in like Mississippi, up in Tennessee and in Alabama, and like the farthest trip was to Jacksonville. Yep, at least here in the Northeast for A and AA, they play 6 or 7 games against the same team. Yeah, I mean they've really adjusted like the travel 100% now. Like the travel in minor league baseball used to be such a grind. Like that was the biggest grind. And in AAA in particular, like I said, I mean, if you like in Colorado Springs, we didn't bus anywhere, so we were always flying out to every team. Now, if we were close by certain teams, we may bus from one team on the road to another team. But no, we did not. We did not have a 6 or 7 game series ever. We played 3-game series or 4-game series, and generally you were on the road for like 7 days or at home for 7 days. You get to stay in the same Super 8 motel for a week, Lux. Well, I will say in AAA, you stay in nice hotels. You stay in pretty nice hotels. Some nicer than others, but some hotels you stay in are very nice in AAA. Because in AAA, you're playing in not like the major U.S. cities, but you're playing in Charlotte, you're playing in Louisville, you're playing in Indianapolis, you're playing in Colorado Springs, you're playing in New Orleans, you're playing in Round Rock, Texas, so right outside of Austin. You're playing in like pretty big cities, Des Moines, Iowa. So like you're actually usually staying in a pretty nice hotel in AAA. Guys, according to Kendall Rogers, this will obviously be a very busy week on the coaching carousel. I'm expecting a few changes this week. A couple in particular are a lot bigger than the others. Interesting. So what that sounds like to me, guys, Kendall is basically saying as soon as some of these teams are eliminated from their ACC tournament or SEC tournament, conference tournament, and they're not going to make the NCAA tournament, some coaches are going down. That's what it sounds like is happening. Does Buck, does D1 baseball have like the Golden Spike stuff? One of the first comment under it says, sounds like A&M wants to get an early start on their coaching search. A few bigger, a couple in particular are a lot bigger than the others. Well, I do have some info on one job that will be open in the Power 4. I don't know if I should say it, but Missouri, A&M, Pitt. Well, I think A&M definitely could be on it. I know. Okay, Buck, I'll go over and look at that. A&M could be on it. Missouri could be. I think Missouri is not going to be open just because I think, I mean, the AD's basically said we haven't supported them the way they need to be supported. Again, 3-27 in SC play is like, that's really bad. But I think you could be talking A&M, could be talking Pitt, but you could. There's another team out there in the ACC that you could be talking about or should be talking about. Let me pull up this Golden Spikes stuff. So I think for Golden Spikes Award, Georgia Tech and Florida State are the only two teams with 2 players on the semifinal list. But Georgia Tech's not very good. It's just them and Florida State that have 2 Golden Spikes Award finalists. But no, Zach, there is another team in the ACC that I've been told it will be open. The Big 12 conference tournament is going to be Future is going to be headed out west to Surprise, Arizona, Surprise Stadium. Really? That's going to be the hottest conference tournament in the country. Duke? No, not Duke. BC? No, not BC. Interesting that Killen from Tennessee and the catcher from Texas didn't make it. Stanford? No. No. Cal? No. No, not Louisville. Miami? No. Not Miami. Not you, man. You guys, how are you guys missing it? Like, I don't understand how it's this bad. Not UVA. Zach. Ding, 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 ding. Georgia Tech. Yeah. Well, yeah. Georgia Tech will have a change at the end of the year. Not Pitt. I mean, maybe. I mean, that could happen, but I haven't heard anything there. Virginia Tech has been a disappointment since they hosted. I think it's just one of those things where Virginia Tech always seems to look really. They've just had some pretty. They've had some bad collapses in recent years, where like they look like a for sure host or at least making the tournament, and then they just fall off. And again, we have to wait and see. But I mean, a lot of people are hearing that. A lot of people are hearing that. I don't know about that, Wiley. You're getting close to being timed out again. May have to 5-minute timeout you. Well, you know what? We haven't even looked at. I think yet we haven't even looked at the top 25 from D1 baseball. Let's look that up. All right, top 25. Here we come. Maybe Wiley's Drew Burress. I don't think so. I don't think so. All right, so LSU is number 1 ranked heading into the SEC tournament. Texas number 2, UNC number 3, Oregon's number 4, Arkansas number 5, Florida State number 6, Oregon State is number 7. Somehow, Oregon State is better than Auburn, Vanderbilt, or Georgia. Coastal Carolina and Southern Miss, 11 and 12. UCLA 13, Clemson 14, Florida 15, Georgia Tech 16, Ole Miss 17, Dallas Baptist 18th, Northeastern 19th, UC Irvine 20th, Tennessee 21st, NC State 22, Alabama 23, TCU 24, and Kansas 25. Now, what's interesting is that TCU is the 25th or 24th ranked team in the country, but they are projected regional host. Have to go see White House. Oh, yeah, I got the DM, Buck. I haven't pulled it up yet. Wiley Ballard, I am Von Lackey. No, you're not. You're not Von Lackey. Again, it's just like if you gave a kid a problem and that said which of these is not like the others, it would be Oregon State, right? Because all these other teams have played like at least, I mean, certainly the SEC and ACC. I have not, Wiley. Dehorned. But I just don't. I still can't get over the. I still can't get over the Oregon State. I can't understand it. I can't understand it. Oregon State is your kryptonite. Yes, it is. It's not even my kryptonite. I just like it. I just cannot rationalize the ranking. I cannot rationalize the ranking. I mean, they go up in ranking after beating like a not great team. You know, it's just something like that where I'm like, Georgia Tech will beat a top 20 team, and it's like, no, they're not ranked. They're not very good. All right, guys, that's going to be it for me today. Tomorrow we will have obviously a stream middle of the day and probably at night with the conference tournament starting. So we'll be talking through that. It's going to be a really fun week, getting to see where some of these teams end up. Thanks for joining. We'll be back tomorrow with another stream. Have a